Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of the Quip Corner with Ada. You'll see my guest bio in this Quip and Convo segment right after this. And this is special to me. If you think about the date you're watching it on, or the date it aired, well, see my guest bio and please join us in the Quip Corner. See you in a bit. Well, welcome to the Quip Corner with Ada, John and Ana.
Thank you.
Nice to see you here.
Yes, it's definitely a delight to have both of you here with me. When I did my meet and greet with John, I had said to him how the books in the Go Giver series have been really a blessing to me. Actually, as you may know, I'm currently reading The Go Giver Leader. And so, it's just learning lots from you. So it's truly an honor and privilege to have you in the Quip Corner with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
So via email, John and I had about your joining me to talk about Quip 26 in my book, because I know you authored the Go Giver Marriage. And Quip 26 goes, when you cherish and nourish your marriage, it will flourish.
Wow. Such a powerful truth.
It's so simple, but there's so much to it. Sweetheart, do you want to start, or who shall begin?
I'm going to let you lead on this one, but I just want to say that is a seriously powerful truth, that if people really recognize that, there would be a lot fewer divorces.
And also not only fewer divorces, but also many more marriages that are richer, that would be richer than they are now. Because so many marriages, we're not just about, in our Go Giver marriage work, we're not just about preventing divorce, but also helping existing marriages flourish. And one of the things I love about that quip is you say, how's the first line go? When you treat your marriage?
When you nourish and cherish.
When you nourish and cherish your marriage. The thing I love about that is that right away it tells you that you and the marriage are two different things. The marriage is something in addition to the two of us. There's you and there's me, but then there's this third thing, the marriage, which in the book, The Go Giver Marriage, we call it the us. We draw a picture of it as, this represents me and this represents you. And then there's this overlap, which is us. And it's almost like a child. It's almost like a third person. And you do have to nourish it and cherish it. It's not just about cherishing the other person. It's about cherishing our usness.
I like that. Usness. Lovely.
With that, I'll turn that over to you, sweetheart.
Well, and that is the very act of feeding the relationship. Okay. When you nourish the relationship, you're nourishing the us. You're nourishing the part of you that have a shared identity. An example I can give is, a wife or a husband, being with friends, and then all of a sudden in front of friends, they decide to tell the friends about this magnificent new thing that's happened to their husband or to their wife, and how proud they are of them, and how it's just really, quite an accomplishment. Maybe they finished a graduate degree, maybe they wrote a book, maybe they did something, but they've taken the opportunity not to brag, but to appreciate their wife or their husband publicly to others. And that is feeding the relationship powerfully, because that is saying, I am connected to this person, and isn't she remarkable? Or I am connected to this person, and I'm so proud of him. isn't this incredible what he's done? And that shared identity becomes you become a power couple when you do that. You become a couple. And this happens to John and I all the time. People will stop us and say, how many years have you been together? And we say 25. And they say, wow, you guys are like newlyweds. And we're not talking about the, get a room kind of newlyweds.
Yes,
we're talking about people that just get it. That
yes.
There's this warm interaction between us. And that whether we're walking down a hallway, I might have my arm inside his arm. There's an interaction going on between us that's just warm and it's friendly and it's always collegial. I'm always on his side. He is always on mine.
Nice. Wow. Sorry, go on.
No, and that's how you really feed the relationship. And in our book, we outline 5 secrets. And then we also outline 5 red flags.
Okay.
And 5 red flags are the opposites of the secrets. So, for example, one of the secrets is to take the time to appreciate your spouse every day, like verbally appreciate them. And it might be thanking them for taking out the trash. But it's a form of appreciating them and letting them know that you appreciate something they've done for us. And when you do that, you're discounting the opposite. And the opposite is criticism. And criticism, we like to say criticism is death by 1,000 cuts. Because criticism is insidious.
Yes.
It can be, why do you need to leave your socks on the floor? I thought you were going to pick up the dog from the vet. Just little, moments where you're taking down that bank of love. And the way that you rebuild it is through appreciation, through words of praise, if you will.
It's so interesting. The hidden message in criticism is, my life would be better if you would do this differently. My life would be better if you would be a little bit different than you are.
Yeah.
And that is death by 1,000 cuts, because it's a little cut, and the other person bleeds.
Yes.
What bleeds is the relationship. You're cutting the relationship down.
Yeah.
What appreciation says, the hidden message of appreciation is, my life is so much better because you did this.
You're here.
Because you're the way you are. And if you're looking for ways to appreciate, looking for ways to point out what you're grateful for, it squeezes criticism out of the picture. You can't hold 2 opposite thoughts at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So the simple discipline of looking for appreciations every day, automatically strengthens the us, because it automatically dampens the tendency to criticize, which we all have because we're human.
Yes. And as you were both speaking, what I just remembered was that saying that it's not the water outside that sinks the ship, it's the water inside.
Yes, that's a brilliant analogy.
I've never heard that before. I love it.
Yeah, because that's what it is. I mean, you see each other in your elements.
Yes.
And the question is, are you lifting or putting them down?
Yes, that is the very truth of it right there.
And
so many people get in the habit of little criticisms continually because they think that's how they can have more control in the relationship. They think that if I can get you to do this my way, or if I can get you to do a better job at this or that, then everything will be better. If you would just pick up your socks every day, everything would be better. Well, do you really want to go to war over a pair of socks on the floor when it would take you less than a second to pick them up and throw them in a basket?
Yeah.
Or things like, I wish you would not talk so much at parties, or I wish you would say a little more at parties. Could you be a little more outgoing? Could you be a little bit more shy? Could you be more this way? How about if you just let them be the way they are?
They are.
And how would it be if you grow in that? The book is couched as the first half is a story, and the second
Mm-hmm.
half is kind of a how-to explanation of the principles.
Yeah.
And the story, there's a point where one character says to a young woman who's having some challenges in her marriage. She says basically, when times are tough, do you rally to your husband's side, or do you go into your separate corners? And that's what happens, I think, to so many marriages, so many couples, even if they're not married, just couples, is suddenly something blows up and we realize the marriage is in trouble. But it was in trouble years before that.
Yeah.
It's the way we are together in the good times that are going to create how we deal with each other in the tough times. With each other every day is what builds our immune system, if you will, our relationship immune system for when hard times come. One of us loses a job, or someone's parent dies, or a kid gets sick, or whatever. These things happen.
Yeah.
And how well we deal with it, whether we deal with it as an us, or we deal with it from our separate corners, kind of back to each other.
Yeah.
That's determined by how we've been behaving every day for all the months and years before.
Yeah. So it's a buildup, really. The question is,
like health.
how are you every day?
Exactly. It's like health. How do you eat every day? How do you exercise? How do you comport yourself every day? That's what really builds health or disease in the long term.
Wow. So thinking about health and how you eat, it brings a question to mind, because Anna had talked about nourishing, like the quip says, nourishing the marriage. And we then talked about appreciation. So I'm curious, does nourishment only have to come from within the usness, or is it something that you feed off others for?
Well, that's a beautiful question, because the fifth secret of our book is in some ways the pivotal secret, because it is called grow. And in order to grow, you go outside of the marriage to discover the ways that you personally are growing. And maybe you discover that you have a childhood pattern that's causing you to be dysfunctional in the marriage. And we all come to marriages with a whole history of how we experience relationships, how we experience affection and love, and we learned it all from our parents.
Yeah.
And if our primary family was not highly functional, and let's be honest, most families are not, then we bring all that baggage with us.
Yes.
So if you had a parent who was passive aggressive, and you have a little bit of a passive aggressive dig style with your partner, and you suddenly really get awake to that, and you decide you're going to shift it, and you do shift it, that's a growth. But usually you went outside the marriage. You might have discovered that in a therapy room. You might have discovered that in business or in a coaching relationship.
Yeah.
You might have really had somebody pointed out to you that said, if you're going to be passive aggressive with me, then we're not going to have a relationship. And I suspect you behave this way in other relationships. And then you sit there and go, yeah, this is who I am with my husband. It's like when you wake up to a pattern, you can never see it again. Consciousness is everything. And so when you grow, you bring all that growth back to the relationship.
Yeah.
But the growth happens. The growth is yours and it's personal. And your spouse's growth is theirs and it's personal. Maybe they decide to take up painting or rocket science or some avocation or vocation that you have no interest in, but they're growing by leaps and bounds. And they come home and they tell you these fascinating stories about how the galaxy works. And you're just spellbound. But it's their growth. And it also, when you grow personally, it makes you a better person because you overcome old patterns that no longer serve you. And you also go into new avenues of exploration, curiosity, new understandings, and new growth. And all of that is food and fuel to bring back to the relationship.
It's almost a little bit of a paradox, because we talk about the usness, how important the usness is. But the paradox of it is we're each individuals. We are also two separate individual people.
Mm-hmm.
Psychologists call this individuation, the ability
Yeah.
to maintain your own identity.
Yes.
And not get yourself so wrapped in the other person that you can only exist vicariously through them.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people slip into a pattern of looking for happiness in the marriage. And don't misunderstand me. There should be plenty of happiness in the marriage. But the key thing is that you bring the happiness to the marriage.
With you. Yes.
Not that you get it out of the marriage. It's
Yes.
not so much like, what can the marriage do for me?
Yes.
It's
what can I do for this?
The marriage.
Mm-hmm.
That marriage that we're nourishing and cherishing is only going to thrive to the degree that each of us as individuals bring our thriving to it. So that question you asked is just so because we have to be interesting people,
mm-hmm.
be growing people, be thriving people to bring that to the relationship.
Yeah. And, the interesting thing about this is it almost comes full circle, because when your husband or your wife grows, you then have more content to appreciate.
Exactly.
That is exactly so.
It makes you a much more interesting person. I mean, John and I are already in our 60s, and we are on, both of us, absolutely new areas of exploration. I'm teaching and coaching all over the world. John is writing novels for the first time in his life. He started writing novels in his 60s, and his novels have won awards. So it's like we're both on these new, really exciting tracks. And we talk about those areas of our life constantly because it's like the new juice.
We're big fans of reinvention.
Yeah. It's the stuff that we're excited about.
Mm-hmm.
And we bring it home to each other.
That's beautiful. And the thing about growing and not getting lost in the other individual, because to your point, there's some marriages where you're like, okay, are you joined at the hip? and once again, we're not saying don't be united. Yes. We're just saying don't lose who you are.
Yes.
Exactly. And the person who loses who they are, their attitude in the relationship is, what have you done for me lately? Because they're expecting to get their nourishment. They're expecting to get all of what they want from the relationship. So they're looking to the other person, expecting them to deliver. And it's no one's job to take care of you but you.
Yeah.
And so you have to figure out what makes you happy and what nourishes you. And you have to seek that individually. And then you have that happiness to bring back to the relationship.
Yes. Thank you.
Now, there's a line in the Go-Giver Leader, which you're reading. It says, self-respect is where every other form of respect comes from. It's like the sun and the moon. The moonshine comes from the sun, and the sun is self-respect. That's sort of true of self-love as well. And it's certainly true of self-worth. You can't look to another person to make you happy unless you're already exercising the capacity to make yourself happy, to live your own life.
Yeah.
This is similar to the thing, that you see with children, where, maybe a mom or a father will kind of invest in their kids so much. Typically moms in our society's history, right?
Yeah.
Where you'll spend 18 years, 20 years, 25 years taking care of the kids.
Yeah.
They leave home, and now it's like, oh my God, what do I do now? What's my life?
What's left?
I don't have a life.
Yeah. Who am I?
I live my life through them. Well, we also live our lives through spouses sometimes, and that's what we're talking about. We want to live our life through ourselves and share it with our spouse.
Yeah. Okay. So that comment, we want to live our lives through ourselves.
Yes.
There is another, you can call it an anagram or, but if you spell out the word united, because we talked about, being united as a couple, the usness.
Yes.
If you spell out the word united and you just move the letter I after the T,
untied,
you get untied.
Mm-hmm.
So how can married couples be careful that in living their fullest lives, they don't move the I?
That's lovely. That's lovely. They don't put the eye ahead and become untied. Yeah.
Well, I have a thought on that.
First. Yeah, I know you'll speak to that first. Go ahead.
Well, the subtitle of our book is called The 5 Secrets to Lasting Love.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that we outline 5 unique areas that are the so-called secrets is because the book is based on what would be called developmental theory. And developmental theory is the psychological theory of what you needed as an infant and as a child. You also needed as an adolescent, and you still need as an adult. So these developmental needs never go away.
Yeah.
An infant, when they're laying on their back on a blanket, they need someone that's cooing over them, appreciating them, telling them they're the most wonderful baby ever, and being appreciated. They want and crave that. That is the basis of what's called early narcissism. When early narcissism doesn't get met, then you see people develop into full-blown narcissists later on. And they are people who never got their needs met as young children and as infants. And therefore they've developed into an adult that's not whole.
Yeah.
That has needs that are way beyond normal. And when people really grow, and when they also bring that growth and that energy back to the relationship, and they're constantly using the different secrets, like appreciating and attending and believing in your partner, things of that sort, you're constantly feeding and nourishing the relationship, and it does not become untied. It just doesn't lose its grip, because that contact is so constant. When you do those things, you're nourishing the root of the tree and out of which comes the branches, the leaves, and the ability to withstand winter and come back in the spring.
I think too that sometimes people become untied because they start to see the other person's growth as somehow competitive with theirs. You see that a lot, for example, in couples where a woman has been taking care of kids and then starts to have her own career, and the husband feels threatened by that, which I think is ridiculous. Be threatened. The understanding that's necessary is that when my sweetheart grows, when Ana does something amazing, it doesn't take away from me. It builds, feeds me. It makes me bigger. Rather than letting our growth become competitive, it becomes collaborative. It becomes complementary. So my job is to be her biggest fan. Being her biggest fan doesn't mean abasing myself or making myself less. It just means, look at her, isn't she amazing? And that's, I think, as long as we hang on to that, as long as we hold on to that genuine sense of being the other person's fan, the other person's cheering squad, then the untying is not going to happen. It's, don't fall into that unnecessary and silly pattern of it being a competition. It's not a competition. It's never a competition.
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, we can definitely go on, but I'd rather pause here and ask if you'll be my guests again, please.
We love
absolutely.
Can you tell?
Absolutely. We love this topic, and we teach it all over the world. And the book is out there moving on. It has its own life. It's moving. And,
nice.
And that's, it's a beautiful thing for us, because the book was a real labor of love. We both wrote it together, and that made it that much more meaningful. We actually sat in different offices at opposite ends of the house. John wrote the parable, which is the front of the book, and I wrote the second half, which is the part that explains it all in terms of psychology and an understanding of how to apply it. And so it's something that we would love to come back and discuss anytime.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate this time.
Absolutely. It's been so much fun. Thank you.
You ask great questions. That's why we want to come back.
You're so kind. Thank you.
I don't have any
You're
idea
welcome.
how
I
many
thought that
minutes
was
it was.
really, we covered a lot of territory. That was great.
Oh, okay. I wasn't. I'm bad that way because when I get into it, I forget the time, and I'm like,
Yeah.
you should be watching the time, and I'm like, I'm having so much fun.
I honestly don't know exactly how much it was, but it was
Yeah, because
excellent.
yeah, thank you. I actually plan to air it on the 10th of July. And it's interesting because as you were talking, it just occurred to me that 10th of July would be exactly a month after, my 23rd wedding anniversary. So it will just be,
Ah,
Ah, sweet. So your 23rd wedding anniversary is June 10th?
yes.
ah,
That's John's birthday.
that
Yes,
was my
I
20.
know. That's what I
that-
said to him. That's what I said
That's
to him in
right.
LinkedIn. I
That's
said,
right. I remember
we
this.
have that date in common. Yeah. Well,
So,
thank you again. I really appreciate it.
well, thank you again for
Thank you.
having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And
Take
take
care.
care.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
That was a great conversation. Wouldn't you agree? Well, I'm sure you did. And they're so gracious. I've said they'll come back. It was good listening to them, give us real life examples of how to cherish and nourish our marriages. And like I said in the intro, today, the 10th of July, is exactly a month since my latest wedding anniversary. And of course, I'm trusting God for many more years. Okie dokie. See you in the next episode. God bless you. Bye now.